For 80 years, I've walked past a house near my own, built before my granddad was born. No drywall, no big machines, just hand tools and local stone. It stands tall, warm even when the snow piles high in January. Our new homes crack and settle in just years. This old house hides a different story, a way of building that kept its comfort safe through generations. It shows us what we chose to forget. Welcome to the Amish Rebel. You know, it's funny. We think our modern houses are so advanced, but most are only built to last about 30 years. Just long enough to pay off the bank. But those old homes aren't just a lucky accident. I've seen Amish stone foundations right here in my county that are 140 years old, and the original mortar is still holding tight. It's not because of some lost secret or magic formula. It's just a different way of thinking. They make one decision that changes everything before they even lay the first stone. They aren't building for themselves or for a quick sale. They're building for their children and for their grandchildren. When you start with that in mind, every single choice you make, from the ground up, is different. And it's a way of building that we've almost completely lost. So if we've lost this way of building, what did we replace it with? We replaced it with speed. Look at any new neighborhood just a few years after it's built. You'll see it. Doors that don't quite shut anymore. Cracks that snake across the drywall, perfectly following the lines of the studs behind them. Floors that feel a little bouncy when you walk across them. These aren't just cosmetic issues. They're symptoms of a deeper problem, and it starts right at the foundation. A modern house usually sits on a poured concrete foundation. It's quick, it's cheap, and it's rigid. But the ground underneath it is alive. It freezes and thaws, it swells and it shrinks. And a rigid concrete wall can't move with it. So within 30 years, it cracks. Once it cracks, water gets in, and the real trouble begins. The old way was different. A stone foundation, put together with lime mortar, is designed to be flexible. It can shift just a tiny bit as the ground moves, spreading the pressure out instead of cracking. It works with nature, not against it. Then you have the wood itself. The lumber in new homes comes from trees that are maybe 15 or 25 years old. They grow fast, and the wood they produce isn't very stable. It twists and warps as it dries, and that's why you get those drywall cracks and uneven floors. It's also why modern stick-built homes, held together with nails, start to loosen over time. As the wood expands and contracts with the seasons, those nails slowly lose their grip. In an old home, they used heavy timbers from slow-growing trees. That wood was stable, and they didn't just nail it together. They used mortise and tenon joints, wood carefully cut to lock into other pieces of wood. A joint like that gets tighter over time, not looser. Even the little things, like paint, show the difference. Modern latex paint seals the wall, trapping moisture inside where it can cause rot. Old lime wash or oil-based paint let the walls breathe. It's 100 small decisions that all point in one direction. We're not building homes to last. We're building products designed to be sold. So what does a house built to last actually look like? You won't find any big secrets here. There's no forbidden knowledge. It's just a series of deliberate choices that make the difference between a house that lasts 30 years and one that stands for 2 centuries. And for the Amish, it begins right in the dirt. Their homes are built on foundations laid stone by stone, often using whatever fieldstone is available locally. But the real magic is what holds it all together, lime mortar. Unlike rigid concrete, this mortar is designed to be the part that gives a little. As the ground moves with the seasons, the mortar flexes, letting the stones shift just slightly so the foundation itself never cracks. Think about that. Some of these stone foundations are 140 years old, with the original lime mortar still doing its job. This solid base, combined with smart drainage, also works like a natural thermostat. In one old farmhouse, the basement temperature was a perfect 55 degrees in the middle of a hot July and 55 degrees in the dead of January. The builders were using the constant temperature of the earth itself to regulate the home. This same principle extends up into the living space. The walls in an old Amish farmhouse are incredibly thick. They're built with timber, sheathing, and siding, but the key ingredient is inside. 3 dense coats of lime plaster, sometimes an inch thick. This plaster acts like a battery for heat. When the wood stove is roaring, that dense plaster slowly soaks up the warmth. Then, as the fire dies down overnight, the walls slowly release that heat right back into the room. It keeps the temperature from swinging up and down. Your modern drywall just can't do that. It has almost no ability to store heat, which is why a room gets cold almost the second the furnace clicks off. The Amish didn't figure this out with spreadsheets or software. They knew it worked because their great-grandparents had already tested it. It was a tradition built on generations of proof, creating homes that stay warm, sound, and livable for centuries. This way of building is about more than just a warm house. It's about a completely different way of thinking about time. I've watched Amish families build for 8 decades, and I realized they weren't just building for themselves. They were building for their children and for their grandchildren. They were building for the family that would work that land long after they were gone. It's a mindset that changes every single decision you make. Take the wood they used. They would look for old-growth trees, maybe 80 or even 150 years old. The grain in that wood is incredibly tight, maybe 12 or 15 rings per inch. Modern lumber is often harvested from trees that are only 15 or 20 years old. That young wood is unstable. It warps and twists as it ages. But that dense, old-growth timber, it stays straight and true for a century. The same thinking applied to everything, even the paint. The old oil-based paints they used could last 40 years without peeling. Why? Because the paint could breathe, letting any moisture in the wood escape. Modern paints create a plastic shell, trapping moisture inside, which is what causes the blistering and peeling. You see, when your timeline is 30 years, you make one set of choices. But if you're building for 200 years, the whole calculation reverses. Sure, using lime mortar in a foundation costs a little more than standard concrete. But that extra cost is nothing compared to having to repair a cracked concrete foundation every few decades. The Amish knew the foundation they laid would still be solid for their great-great-grandchildren. It's a choice to invest your time and your work up front, so that the people who come after you don't have to. It's not about being old-fashioned. It's about being responsible for the future. We've seen how building for speed, not for life, leaves us with homes designed to fall apart in just a few decades. Cracking foundations, twisting wood, paint that peels too soon. It's all built for the quick sale, not for the generations who will actually live there. But the old ways, the Amish ways, tell a different story. They built for their children and their children's children. They chose to spend more time, more care, and sometimes more upfront cost, not for an inspector, but for a promise to the future. This isn't just about strong walls or a warm house in January. It's about a different relationship with time itself. It's about leaving something lasting behind. If you're tired of homes that crumble, if you want to uncover more forgotten wisdom that could change how we live and build, stick around. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss what else these old ways can teach us about building a real future.